Did God send this virus? Does God send earthquakes and hurricanes? Does God use these things to punish? That's the question today. The thing that gets thrown up against Christianity more often than anything else is what we call the problem of evil. Why does a good God allow these types of things to happen? Now, if you look at your screen, you will see that this question has been around for a very long time. Epicurus, the guy who was a Greek philosopher, not the guy who sells spices, he wrote this: "Is God willing to prevent evil but not able? Then he is not omnipotent or all-powerful. Is he able but not willing? Man, then he's malevolent or evil himself. Is he both able and willing? Then where does evil come from? Is he neither able nor willing? Then why would we call him God?" So quickly today I'm going to give you three options to answer this question. The first one is from the group of people who believe that God does send these things to punish. And you can get them when a natural disaster happens. You'll see on your screens through social media, God has sent this. Well, the problem with that, of course, if that's the case, God is very indiscriminate, because things like the virus and things like hurricanes and earthquakes, they strike believers and non-believers alike. So if God is using it to punish, man, he's literally broadcasting his shot. He's taking hits at everybody. Some people would connect this to, and they base this in scriptures like the one on your screen out of Exodus, where God is saying, if you follow in my ways, I won't send on you any of the diseases I've sent on other nations. It's really difficult to import that kind of scripture to today, because God there is dealing with a group of people in covenant relationship with him. And he's talking about, rewards and punishments in terms of that covenant relationship. He's not talking about the world over or indiscriminately blessing or sending disease upon everybody. You get a couple of New Testament examples in Acts 5, for example, with Ananias and Sapphira, where God punishes with death. But there again, it's a specific sin committed by specific individuals. It's not a broadcasting of a punishment across nations. So I dismiss this first one out of hand. I don't believe that's how God operates. We don't see that in Jesus, and he is the image of the invisible God. Now, second, and this is the most common one probably, and we can get it out of the verse you see on your screen, Romans 8:28. We know that God is working in everything for our good, or God works out everything for our good. So these things are not all meant for our good. God allows them, but he then turns around and he redeems. So that's the core of this message. God is always redeeming, even out of the virus, even out of tragedy, even out of things that situations we just can't imagine how terrible they are. God is working to redeem. Why does God allow it in the beginning? Well, because from my perspective, he so values the free will that he put in all of us. And free will brings consequences, that now we're seeing consequences of human behavior that's showing up in the way the world is reacting in terms of climate and climate patterns. We're seeing consequences in terms of disease, consequences in terms of abuse, famine. These can all be related to human choices and the consequences of our choices. So God allows it because he doesn't get in the way of human free will or consequences, but he constantly works to redeem. So God is the great redeemer. He works out everything for our good. He doesn't bring it, but he works it out. So that's your second choice. That's the most common. Then the third one is one I've been interested in lately. It's written by a theologian named Thomas J. Ord. I'll put the books on your screen now. The first was called The Uncontrolling Love of God, which is more of an academic look. The second is called God Can't, written for people more at the lay level. Ord's basic premise is that God's essential nature is love. And because of that, love is never ever controlling. True, genuine love is not controlling. If you insist or force somebody to love you, it's not really love. And so Ord argues that because God is love and his nature is totally the pure essence of love, God could not stop these things if he wanted, if it means overriding human choice. So that's one on the other extreme from the folks who would say God sent this as a punishment. Ord is arguing that God actually can't. God can't stop these things, not because he couldn't, but because he sovereignly chose to give us free will. He's sovereignly chosen to allow the consequences of our free will. And so now he cannot work to intervene because love is never controlling. So today I've given you 3 options, and I trust this has given you something to think about. If so, and you have any further questions or comments, I would love to hear from you below.